back. What we're going to be teaching today is how to tie one of these. If you're not sure what one of these are, this is a pole float. A lot finer bristle, a lot finer stem, a lot finer body than what you find on maybe a normal regular waggler or stick float. As you can imagine, requires finer shot, finer line, finer everything. And it's just a much better way to present your bait. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to tie one of these up, put it on one of these, which is a winder, and help you hopefully enjoy some more coarse fishing. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to show you the setup that we've got here. Now preparation is always the key with everything. Start down here on the right hand side, we've got all the line that I'm going to need. Now I've got 3 spools of line. In Old Money I've got 4.6 pound line, £6.6 for some of the shorter inside margin rigs, and I finally ends up with £5.14. So definitely fishing summer rigs. In the winter you tend to lighten that line up a little bit. There, my selection of floats, just the final few I've got left to tie up at the moment. A handy little piece of equipment, a line clip, just a tiny little pair of scissors, gets right into the fine details, very handy. A handy little device, and an absolute essential part and an essential key is a pole anchor, and we'll come to them a little bit later. Funny little device here is a Disimpiombo, absolutely vital piece of equipment when you're plumbing up floats, and we'll get on to exactly how we use those in just a moment. We've got my shots and my stots. Now preferences, I do prefer shots over stots over shots, simply because it just sits better on the line, less resistance, easy to slide up and down. There we have all the variations in colours, sizes and shapes of pole winders, and down here we have my float silicone. Once again, very handy to have. Not a tub like that costs you about £5, maybe tie up or maybe 200 floats with that. And then finally we have our water that we're going to be testing our floats in. So I've got a vase, I've borrowed the missus vase. You could have whatever you wanted. What I used to use before we had a vase was a old pop bottle, 2 litre pop bottle, cut the top off it, fill it with water, does the exact same job. And you don't have to go expensive with anything. Nothing here is here to break the bank basically. So we'll get on to actually making the rigs then. So as we were saying earlier, I'm going to show you this funny little device. Got a Disimpiombo, and it's here to give your floats neutral buoyancy. And what I'm going to show you is how to lock your float in place. So what I'm going to do is just grab one of my pole floats that need tying up. I'm just going to put it in that back slot there. Just, I don't know if the camera can pick that one up, just that little slot there. I'm going to pop that one in. All I'm going to do is just tighten down, just move that lever, just tighten down, and you'll see that's not going anywhere. Now to the main part, just actually putting it in the water, and we can see when it stops that is a fair distance out of the water. So what that says is if you just put this one on a piece of line with no shot, that's how far out your float would be sticking, and it's pretty far. Now I can probably hear a lot of people saying, well, what does it matter, why do we need to shot a float down? For a fish to be able to pull that one under, so I'll just pop that one on, for a fish to be able to pull that under, it's going to take a lot more effort the way it's sat now than if it was just sat at level like that. It takes a lot more effort. The more resistance on anything, the less likely you are to get bites. The fish are going to pick it up, pick your bait up under the float, it's going to feel that resistance, and it's going to let go straight away. So we'll move on to the shot. So before we move on to actually plumbing up the float, I want to show you just a slight difference between shots, which I'm sure anybody who's ever been float fishing in their life remembers shot. Little round ball bearing-esque type pieces of short carbon shot, with a little slit in them to allow you to apply them onto the line. Now what I tend to use is the stots instead. These are more block type ones. Much easier to get on the line, especially when you're dealing with something so small. And they just sit better, slide up and down better. You don't tend to lose pieces short, you don't tend to overbite them. Just an easier piece. But preference is preference. So on to plumbing the float up itself. So you saw how far out it was sticking, and it's probably going to take a fair bit of shot of this. You could go down the route of using an Olivet. I just don't have any Olivets with me, I just don't like them. But if the silicone slips off, you lost your entire weight. I can easily replace a nice little piece of this shot. I always carry it with me. So what I've done is I've started off with 4 little pieces of number 9 Stotts. What we're going to do is just going to sink that down. I'm just going to allow the float just to pop up, and you can see once it focuses we're still way out the water. So what I'm going to need to do is add a bit more shot to it, maybe double up, maybe go up to maybe 8 pieces of number 9, and we'll go from there. We'll see where we sit. So I ended up actually putting on 9 pieces of number 9 shot. Now once again, you could have used different size shot. I just prefer this, and I'll show you why a little bit later on in the video. But we'll sink that one down and we'll wait for the float just to come back up. Now it's coming up a lot slower, so fingers crossed this is, maybe just give it a little nudge, maybe there's something stuck on it. Now there is quite a thick bristle on this float. I don't mind seeing a little bit of black, but if we can just see just a little peek of the teardrop body of the float still sticking out. Now just through experience over the years, I know if I put another number 9 shot on there, that's going to probably sink the float right under. It's going to be way too heavy. So what I need to do now is maybe switch to something like a number 12, one of these. A lot finer shot. The higher the number of the shot, just like in the hooks, the smaller the shot actually is, just like with the hooks. We'll put maybe a number 12 or 2 on there to see if we can just get it just dotted down just enough so I can see the bristle, and we'll see where we go from there then. So what I've ended up doing is putting on a number 11 piece of Stott and a number 12 piece of shot. So I remember earlier on in the video I showed you the difference between shots and Stotts. And if you can just see there, just where the camera's focusing, you can see I'm missing maybe half a centimetre of float, and I'm quite happy with that. It's quite a thick bristle. And if you remember back to the video, back to the very beginning of the video, we talked about resistance, and you'll think of the resistance that it takes just to take that bit of float under there compared to taking the bulk of that body under. It's a lot different. The fish barely feels this, especially when you're going carp fishing or anything like that. Barely feels something like this, whereas with the main bulk of the body of the float, it's going to feel that resistance and probably drop the bait. Plus it gives you a nicer presentation. You can see that on the water, and just try and get down to water's level. That's what you're going to see when you're fishing. You'll see just a nice tip of the float, and all you're waiting for is that just to sink under and sink away like that. Strike, you're in. So I've decided to go with this Preston Power low diameter line. New money, it's saying it's 0.15 millimeters. Now I'm not too okay with millimeters, so I go old school, which I've always been taught on, and it's £5.40. It's just short of £6 line. And for the work I want this float to be doing, I'm going to need something like £6 line. But what I am going to do is I am going to put the silicone on first. So I've got 3 pieces of silicone I need to slide on. There's 2. Now once you've found silicone for your float, unless you bust the float and you've broke it and it's shattered, and you never really need to replace the silicone too often. You can just slide it off when you've broke your line, your hook, or the rig itself's just worn out, and you can just slide it off, plumb your float up like we've just shown you, and then we can just go from there. So moving on to a bit of a technical part, you see a tiny little eye on top of the float just there. That's what I need to thread the line through. This is quite finicky work. Once you've got a steady hand and you've done it a few times, it does get a lot easier. So I'm just going to reel off a bit of line. Now if you've not guessed already, you know, there's some probably anglers out there screaming at me saying you're doing it backwards, you're doing it wrong. this is just a way, I've not been taught, but I got taught the other way. I got taught to build it backwards to this, put the shot on and put the float on and stuff like that. But this is the way I prefer to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them 3 pieces of silicone. And you can see why the silicone is so important. It keeps the line clamped to your float, so it's just running in situ. So it's all running down the line and it looks sweet. And there we go. So we've now got the float on. We've got the eye up here, and as you can imagine, that sits in the water. Your line goes straight down the float and you'll be fishing directly underneath you. So it's always handy to have a couple of pieces of silicone. Like I said, the silicone can dry out. It's getting wet, it's getting dry, it's getting wet, it's getting dry, and it can break and it can just fall off. So always worth putting 2 or 3 pieces on, just in case one does go, you've got a replacement. Or you can just re-plumb up or put some new silicone on if you wanted. Now what I'm going to do with the tag end, this is the top end of my rig. This is going to be what's attaching to my Stormflow or my Dacron connector, and this is where I'm going to put my loop in. So it's just a normal overhand loop. So you go through, make a loop, you pass the actual loop through the second one twice, pull it tight, and there we go. Back to my little line clips, and you'll see I can get it nice and tight, and you can barely see a tag. It's beautiful that way. So got that on, got a line all spaced out. Now this is your chance to have the rig as long or as short as you want. I always make mine roughly the length of a top kit, which is about 2 meters. I tend to go a bit shorter in the summer, knowing that I'm not going to be fishing anywhere that has 2 meters. I'm never going to be fishing bottom at 2 meter depth, so save wasting line. And so what you can see here is, I can't turn my hand far enough, is I've actually clamped that piece of stock, that piece of number 9 stock, under the line, so it's in the groove. And all I'm going to do now is bite that on. You can see there, and it'll slide up and it'll slide down. I've got to do that 9 more times. So I'll crack on, I'll get this one done, and I'll show you the finished result. I remember now why I don't mess about with number 12 shots. It's just so finicky, especially on bigger line like this as well. This is one of the reasons why it's maybe important to fish with low diameter line, especially when you're pole fishing. And another thing I thought of while I was shotting up, 1 minute. You can get machines that'll do this, little devices, called machines, and they'll just crank one piece through, you put your line in, you squeeze a little pincer at the end and it does it for you. I don't know why I don't use them, they are quite handy. Talking about shirt button style, if I just pull it through, you can see what I mean by shirt button style. All evenly spaced out. Now, when I start fishing, and it goes down to the 12 at last, I'm just going to bite this one off. I don't need the line clips for that, just bite it off. When I start fishing, might only be 3 foot deep when I'm fishing, so that shot's going to get moved about. One of the benefits of Stotz over shot is I can move that shot about quite easily. Once again, all I'm doing is I'm just tying a normal loop, so you can see it, you might not be able to see it too well. All I've done, piece of line, made a loop, made another loop out of that loop, so I've got a doubled up loop, and I've got a little tag on the end, and all I'm going to do is feed that through once, grab it, pull it through, feed it through twice, grab it, pull it through, and pull tight. Get my little line clips. Always remember to cut off your tags, not through decoration or anything like that. Actually stop snagging up. If you have a big old tag hanging out, your line and other bits of crap are going to get caught on it. Whereas now, all nice and clear. So I've got my hook end, and this is where I'd normally have hooks to nylon, my own hooks that I've tied, and I attach it to that loop by the loop to loop method. So main line through the hook loop, hook through main loop, and then you pull tight, and it's unbreakable. But what the benefit of it is it puts a weak spot on your line. It sounds really bad putting a weak spot on your line, but you imagine I'm fishing with a pole that's worth 400-500 quid, and I'm fishing with a rig. I've got a couple of quid worth of equipment here. You always want points of weakness in your rig, and this is why I can't understand why people will go fishing with £30 line, 40 line, 50, and they haven't got a balanced rig, and they've got an old rod, and the rod's the weak spot then, and that rod's cost you more than the line, and it just don't make sense. So that's my first weakness in it. The attachment to the top of the pole, that's my second weakness. The elastic's my third weakness, and then if all else fails, my pole's a fourth weakness. So the last thing you ever want to do is your pole or your rod to break. That's the most expensive piece of equipment you've probably got with you. It don't cost 50p for an hook, to be honest with you. It don't even cost that, it don't cost 10p. So you want that to go first, you want this hook link to go, you're happy for that to go. You prefer not to, but you'd rather have that go than the rod or the pole or the elastic. Fishing with hydro elastic especially, £15 a spool, it gets an expensive occasion when you start breaking stuff like that. So what I'm going to show you now is I've just got a nice little blue winder, and you can see 2 pegs on either end, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this bare. The reason being is because when I rock up to a fishery, I don't know where I'm going to be fishing, I don't know what I'm going to be fishing for. So if I put a number 12 hook on here and I get somewhere and there's only a little silverfish showing, I've ruined this rig. I have to take the hook off, put a new hook on, tie a new hook. It don't make sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie it bare. When I get to the bank, it don't take me 2 seconds to do a loop-to-loop connection, so I can always just put one on there and then, and I'm done and I'm away, rather than having to undo a rig and do it again, and no problem. So all I do is I'm just going to pop that on the end there, and you see how it's nice and tight. I'm nice and tight to it. I'm just going to wind it round. And the purpose of this is just to make sure everything's safe. You can wind it around your hand, but you're going to get tangles. This thing here stops you getting tangled up and losing rigs, and you've seen the pain it takes to tie a rig at times. So you don't want to be losing them too often. Now what I do want to do is as you can see, there's probably a deep part and a shallow part, and I want my float to sit in this deeper part. So all I'm trying to do, doing it one-handed as usual, is I'm trying to slide my float down the line. There we go. So as you can see, my float sits in there perfectly. It's not sticking out at the bottom, at the top. I'm not going to lose the float, and if I push on it, that stays all flush, so I can't touch anything. I can't break out. So we'll just wind up to the top loop, and I've got my top loop there. And what I'm going to do is grab a Weird Advice little pole anchor, little tiny rubber band with an anchor on one end and a loop on the other. So I'm going to just pop that one through, and I'm just going to pull it tight, and all I'm going to do is hook it straight onto that tag at the end. And there we have it. We've got a fully formed rig. So happy fishings, happy trails. Drop a comment below, drop a like if you liked the video. If you didn't like it, let us know, and we'll see what we can change. But thank you very much for watching. This has been the Yorkshire Angler, and I hope to see you out on the banks very soon. Thanks.